Greetings. About 2 years ago, a person named Carol started a group here on YouTube called Needing a Meeting. That group started out dealing mainly with addiction. It quickly became a channel dealing with all sorts of issues that people were working through. Carol's having to work on herself for a little bit. So while she's doing that, putting her channel on pause, this is my attempt to help fill that need. And that's what I pretty much made this channel for, is to help people through things. And hopefully together we can get some of this stuff figured out, some of the issues that we have. It's quite interesting. I forwarded an article. I just found actually like this is kind of neat. This person, they were going through and they found that a lot of us with ADHD, of course, we are dopamine deprived. No big, not that's not exactly news there. But what they're finding is a lot of us. When I say us, I have ADHD too. Mine's gotten a lot worse lately, but let's just say it's given me a new perspective for people who have much worse cases than I do. I've always had just a minor amount of it. And while I get my body issues worked out that are increasing my ADHD, I'm using this opportunity to help me see how people with ADHD, how they function. And I must say that I am actually quite taken back at some of the skills I have seen necessary to continue on. This article I was talking about earlier, it was talking about how the importance of varying our dopamine sources, of how if you overdo one thing too much, it can become actually boring. And we start getting less return on investment as we do the same activity over and over and over again. So yes, we do need to vary our activities. And this particular group, they treat it like a menu, which it's actually an interesting approach. They had what they would call appetizers or starters. These were generally activities that don't really require a lot of work, and they don't tend to suck you in as much as some other activities may. They were really simple things, quick dopamine hits, things like a minute of jumping jacks. I found that to be interesting. I never really thought about that. Drinking a cup of coffee, eating a snack, working on a crossword puzzle with another one, taking a warm shower, that kind of thing. Hello, it's Cosmic. And they moved on to entrees or main courses. These would be like the big things that we can do that provide a pretty good dopamine hit. Um, they were playing an instrument, uh, exercising, journaling, cooking, working on a hobby. Then they went on to, excuse me, then they went on to sides. These were things which we'd want to do while doing it, help us keep in focus while working on activities that were boring, like using a fidget spinner, playing a podcast while you're doing something else. Lord knows I do my share of that. And then they were talking about desserts, things which you don't want to overdo, like eating just dessert would do. These examples they gave were like texting, social media, watching TV. Those kind of things can give us dopamine, but we want to keep them reined in, because if we don't, they can take over our day really quick. So,
Arguing gives me dopamine.
how
So
you doing,
that's
Cosmic?
I'm all right. Good news. Actually, I'll tell you about it in a second. But going back to uh, the dopamine stuff, I think that's why I
Mhm.
used to argue with people on Twitter. I didn't argue. I just used to get them riled up, and I thought it was hilarious. I think I've said this before, and But then I realise that there's other people on the side of the screen. And I don't know what sort of day they're having, and I could be making their day worse. They might not see, they probably don't see it as hilarious as I do,
Hmm.
because I'm just doing it for fun. I like the debate, the back and forth. I don't ever expect to win an argument. I'm not going to change someone's mind on Twitter. you know, um, doesn't matter what it is. So it's not going to happen unless maybe I'm helping them understand a little bit about these sort of things, but never. I'm not going
Mm.
to change anyone's political views or
Yeah.
morals or
Yeah.
anything like that. So I was just doing it for fun.
Hmm.
But then I realized, sometimes I have a bad day and someone might say something to me and I might take it the wrong way and it just ruins my whole day. And I don't want
Yeah.
to be that person. So I've
Yeah.
had to find my dopamine in other places.
Yeah. It was an interesting concept because I find that at least I can see that I tend to do that. I'll hammer on something till it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like it used to be fun. Quick shout out to our audience, Tony B, Jason P, my other's keeper, Sandy Wandy, Awakened, or Ned, Crystal, good to see ya. Shannon Smith, I hope you're doing good.
It's
Mm-hmm.
funny because lots of people don't realize until they're older in life, like and all that sort of stuff. Find out doctors and nurses, a lot of them are ADHD, and it's because it's high energy impact workspace.
Hmm.
One of my friends, she's just got a job as a AIN, which is like a assistant with a nurse, assistant nursing, and that's because she really looks. Thank you. She really wants the high energy, high paced, fast environment, whereas
Yeah.
aged care home wasn't like that, and she's very ADHD. So it's
Mm.
because I'm seeing her in me. I'm seeing me in her. Sorry, like the ADHD sort of stuff that I didn't realize was apparent to other people until I saw it in someone else who probably has it just as bad as I do.
Yeah.
Always had it, and you'll find that a lot of times it will show up in your report cards as an inattentive child or lacks focus or talks too much in class, and
Sure.
we finished the work or it was boring. We didn't want to do it.
Mhm.
So it's because we were quick at it, I guess. A lot of cases, not always. Get me into calculus or whatever it is, and I'll be like, nah.
Mm.
You also find that you tend to be in the gifted range at school, like especially younger, like in primary school or elementary school, whatever you call it over there. In the first 5 years of life, you're gifted. You're right up until high school, and then you find that the situation gets harder. The kids are louder. You're not as well behaved most of the time. Hi, Tony. And so your environment changes, and the testing gets harder, and all that sort of stuff. And so you'll find that a lot of people who are gifted young students tend to be
Mm.
gifted older students.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
if you ever want a diagnosis, or if you ever feel like you need it, I don't think self-diagnosis is valid. You know you better than anyone. So
Mm.
if
Yeah.
you mash with these things, then I would say your diagnosis of yourself is valid. I mean,
Mm.
I didn't diagnose myself because I don't pay attention to my behaviors. I think I'm just so, and also I saw this in my kids. I saw myself in my kids, and I never thought there was anything wrong with them. I
Mhm,
thought they were
mhm.
perfect, and their behaviors to me didn't seem out of the ordinary because I never made them do anything I didn't want to do. And so if they didn't want to go join a sports team or whatever because they were too nervous or it's too anxious, I was like, cool. I didn't want to do it either. I was forced. So I never forced them to do anything. And I think sometimes that might have been a bad idea because at least by being forced into those social interactions, I did learn relatively well
Mm.
how to interact socially.
Mhm. Yeah, not yeah. Yeah, I can see a certain value to that. Tony, how you doing this fine morning? Morning, day.
She frozen?
Looks like Tony's frozen. Okay. Well, that's that's unfortunate.
I got
Oh,
it.
there you are. Okay. So how you doing this fine day?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Oh well, we're just gonna have to do it this way. That's
Mhm.
fine. Because it's not wanting to do what I want it to do. So,
Yes, I understand. I was just starting to get used to the interface in Restream, and then I hit a magic button that changed the whole interface for me, and I'm trying to get used to that. It's got a few more. bells and whistles, but yeah, you just have to move things around on me.
Isn't that how it always goes?
Yeah, I'm trying to get used to as much of this as possible.
I
Out of
understand.
hopes that yeah, I'll get used to the. It's amazing how much harder it is just to lead. I
Mm-hmm.
like.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it's this work. Words is hard.
Yeah. I've
I
missed
don't
you
work
all.
well.
I took I spent 5 days down in Springfield, Missouri with my Dustin,
Hmm,
and we had a really good time. It just relaxing, playing tourist for a little bit,
hmm,
going golfing. So, yeah, it was nice. So I'm a
hmm,
little de-stressed now, ready to deal with everything again,
hmm.
watching the baby sleep.
One of the things I found interesting, I was digging in on. I've been digging in on ADHD because it's been quite the topic du jour, um, especially with the condition I'm in, of having my ADHD much worse than usual. It's like I am so in awe of people who deal with it much harder than I do. It's like it's really opened my eyes to wow, how people can function with this. And I know a lot of people have much worse cases than I do, or function much better than I do with the amount I have. And I'm just completely like, wow, the tricks that people have had to learn. And
Mm-hmm.
it's apparent that people use tobacco for, or not tobacco, well, yeah, nicotine to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Here we got Becca. Becca, how you doing,
Hi,
Miss
Becca.
Sunshine?
Hello.
Good to see ya.
My son has ADHD,
Mm,
and he uses the green form
mm,
to control it, but he's not using it the way he should.
mm,
And so he still has a lot of issues. Plus, he's dealing with trauma from his bike accident and trauma from being bullied in high school. Or in middle school and high school. He got pushed down the stairs in middle school and
mm,
ended up with the school called us, said, he had been pushed down the stairs and he hit the railing. And I asked him, I said, how bad was he hurt? And they said, oh, it's not bad. He's just got a little bit of a black eye. I said, well, if he wants to stay in class, he can stay in class. So he stayed in class. He comes home. He comes home from here, clear back to his ear was swollen and bruised and black. And I asked him, I said, did you fall asleep in class? He goes, well, I was having a hard time staying awake. Yeah. I'm like, that's it. And I was working at home at the time. And I got a hold of my supervisor and I said, I got to go. I got to take my son to the emergency room. The boy had a concussion so bad that they took him out of phys ed for 3 weeks.
mm. Wow.
And the school told us that he wasn't badly hurt. His dad was so mad. He went down to the school the next morning and he said his name, and the principal came flying out of her office. Mr. Ripitu, Mr. Ripitu, we just want to apologize, and started talking to him and everything. And my husband was like, what are you going to do about this kid? Well, he's a good kid. No, he's not. He pushed our son down the stairs. And that's what we kept getting told every time, every school that our son went to. It was like, well, he's causing the problems, not these other kids. He's the one causing the problems. I'm like, I don't think so.
Mm,
But all the other kids were good kids. And it just like, so my son has got trauma from that, trauma from the accident, plus ADHD and anger problems on top of that.
mm,
But he has a new baby and it's causing him to rethink things. He's
mm,
actually willing to talk to Tara,
mm. Good.
which I'm really happy about. I'm really happy about. He's willing to go on the lifeboat, but he wants to get back to work first. And it's like, son, you can do two things at once.
Mm,
But his ADHD doesn't allow him to do that. He gets hyper focused. Yep, he hyper focuses on what he needs to do or wants to do, and that's all he sees. He doesn't see anything else. So I understand in my own way what you go through. Anybody who has neurodivergence, I have bipolar disorder with personality disorder,
Mm.
I have something
and
interesting to say about personality disorders too that I was told yesterday by
yeah,
my psychiatrist, my psychologist. And about
yeah.
write it down because I will forget.
So, it's nice to have this community to come to because there's so many of us that deal with similar issues and similar problems. And I think I have got a little bit of the adult ADHD now too, as well, because there's times I either hyper focus on something or I can't focus at all.
Mm.
I try to do like five things at the same time and nothing gets done.
Oh,
So I'm right there.
Becca,
Hello.
thank you so much for the article.
You are welcome.
Good to see ya. How
Good
you
to see
doing
you.
this day?
I am pretty good. Headache, and so I don't know how long I'll stay, and I am fatigued because it's been a
Mm.
long day, but really good therapy. And I love that article. I haven't made my dopa menu,
Mm.
but I did make notes on it.
Well, it was really an interesting article, an interesting approach, and yeah, I can understand that because you get, and that was their point, is that people, we instinctually do things. Everybody thinks that what we do is always, you know, prefrontal cortex, conscious thought, but a lot of times our body will guide us to activities to help it with other issues. That's why so many of us turn to chemicals to self-medicate. Um,
Hmm.
and it's the reason why a lot of us turn to stimulants. Stimulants don't necessarily work for everybody with ADHD, but it was really interesting digging in on why do stimulants help people with ADHD? Why is the opposite true? And what happens is a lot of stimulants will, not certainly not all, they will stimulate the prefrontal cortex, which in turn it's kind of amps up our inhibitions to do things, and it speaks to the nucleus accumbens, which deals with mainly impulses, and then the amygdala and surrounding area deal with emotions. It helps the brain kind of tamp those down a little bit. It's like,
Yep.
wow, that is
But
that is interesting.
I was gonna say it explains why when I'm super like when we're tired, I don't know about other people, but while I reach for sugar, we're
Yeah.
more likely to
Hmm.
reach for the things that are trying to or when I'm sad, I
Mm.
want,
Hmm.
I'll want junk food. I'll want
Oh yeah.
Butterfingers or something, something that is not good for me. And
well, that's what I've found since I've got home from hospital is I'm craving carbohydrates, anything carbs.
mhm,
Mm.
yep,
I'm barely sleeping. That's not helping. So I am tired all the time. But it's just carbs, carbs, carbs. But your body tends to crave what's necessary. And because I've been in starvation mode for so long, I think
Mm.
my body just wants quick and easy energy. So I'm
Mm.
mhm,
just like eating all these lollies and all that sort of stuff, which I don't normally do. I don't like lollies or anything, but I'm just like, I've got a whole box up there that I said to everyone, this means you don't want me to babysit because they're going to get lollies too. Um, but yeah, I just find that that's what I'm doing right now is the carbs. So I'm not sure if that's anything ND related or just body related. But you
Mm.
also find that lots of people with ADHD specifically will self-medicate themselves if they're unable to get the medication that helps. So you'll find they'll alcohol, lots,
Yes.
especially things like speed and meth and anything that sort of would raise anybody else's energy and all that sort of stuff up tends to calm people like us down. Like I got given Dramamine years ago, which is a weight loss drug.
Mm.
Basically, it's a legal version of speed, I guess. I went to sleep. It was supposed to give me energy. And I'm just
Mm.
there going, Doctor, what happened? And he goes, it's probably not the right thing for you. Never once was ADHD mentioned, but if you think about it, it should have been because
yep.
it's,
Hmm.
stimulant drugs calm ADHD people down. But with
Sorry
the
about sorry about the light flashing. It's storming here. If
that's
I
all right.
lose you, I apologize. All of my lights are like flickering. Apologize. Sorry.
It's okay.
But emotional regulation is
I,
something that happens a lot with neurodivergent people. It's difficult. It's one of my biggest problems right now. That's why I've been diagnosed emotionally unstable. Funnily enough, my doctor actually said that I probably don't even have a personality type disorder. It's all trauma. It's CPTSD. When you think about it, anyone with PTSD or borderline personality disorder, they're not born with it. You don't get born with this. It's an environmental thing that's created by trauma. So my psychologist, he's a clinical psychologist, he's been one for more than a year, and he said that I'm not mentally ill, I'm traumatized. And because of my neurodivergencies, I'm maybe not handling it the same way as other people, but who handles trauma?
Yeah.
You know, how do you handle it? Handle it however you get through. So, and because I was struggling with this diagnosis, being told I'm emotionally unstable, I'm like, well, get me at the wrong time of month, of course I'm going to be. But, it's just like, but my doctor said, don't pay attention to that particular label because they're actually looking into taking it out of the DSM, which we don't really, we've got a different one over here in Australia we use more because my psychologist, said that when people go to a doctor with borderline personality disorder, especially if the doctor's of an older type generation, they're like, can't help you. There's no cure for BPD, which is not true. A cure is one, being believed that you're struggling and that you want help, and two, intensive therapy. Like that's one of the reasons why dialectical behavior therapy was created, was for people with post-traumatic stress and BPD and all these different things, because we think differently. We have to think about it a different way, I think. And I think if we take that thing, because there's a stigma with borderline personality disorder. It was the one thing I didn't want to be diagnosed with because it was one thing I got told that you can't be fixed. So, and now you can. And they like CPTSD and PTSD is one of the biggest things they look into because the army looks into it. So they want people to be, they don't want their soldiers to be damaged because it costs them more money, regardless of whether or not they, actually care about their welfare, the mental health of their foot soldiers or whatever. But it's just that it's being looked into so much because of the military. And you know what? Let's take advantage of it. That needle that gets injected into your vein, that started off being injected into people of the military because they'd do anything rather than suffer. So when you think about it, they are trying to get it BPD reclassified to CPTSD, and because instead of looking at it from a personality disorder, which lots of people be like, oh, it's just a shit personality, they're looking at it from a trauma perspective and trying to deal with the trauma, which is why you've got the symptoms in the first place. You don't, as I said, you don't start off this way.
Yeah.
My therapist actually has told me the same thing. She says, I don't know that you have depression, like the major depression, anxiety that I have been diagnosed with, that it's probably most likely just trauma, or even if there's a little bit of depression, anxiety, majority of it is trauma. And then the other thing she said in today's therapy was she said they're looking at removing ADHD from the list of the book that you mentioned, Chris.
Yeah.
That they're looking to remove it in neurodivergent.
It's a neurological disorder. It's not a mental illness.
And because there's enough people that are neurodivergent or ADHD that we're just a different brain function than.
Sure.
Because it came up because my mom, when I told my mom that I had gotten the ADHD diagnosis, she's like, "Did that come from Dad?" My parents are divorced. Of course, it can't come from my mom's side of the family. It's got to come from my dad, who she doesn't like. But it's just a different brain. It's not bad
It's divergent. It's divergent from the norm, typical.
I know.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think that's fine. I got nothing, I think all the same brains would be pretty boring. Actually, I have the same, I have someone who was talking about how they didn't think that, they thought that ADHD and neurotypical stuff can actually one day be cured. And I'm just like, I got a little offended.
I think
cured. And it's like eugenics. I mean, they're trying to take out what makes us different.
Yeah.
I don't, one of the reasons why I dyed my hair black when I was 18, I think it was, is because I didn't want to be a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. I didn't want to be that thing that the person whose name starts with H and didn't like a particular group of people. I didn't want to be what he wanted. So I tried to be the opposite. So black hair for me and all, all different hair ever since. Because who wants to be the same? And especially if you're someone who would have fit into that particular group of people who were accepted by looks, if they had figured out that I was autistic, I would have been Asperger's would have checked in on me and been like, "What are you doing?" So,
Yeah.
but
I think
but right up to a certain age, I passed very well as a neurotypical person. I think just with someone with a little bit quirky.
Tony, you were.
I think that being neurodivergent creates more creativity in the world,
Mhm,
because it seems like those who are normal, right,
mhm.
aren't quite as creative in their minds. It's the ones that are neurodivergent that creates the paintings and the words in a book, and because if you look at the majority of those people, they don't act like normal people, quote unquote. And a lot of different ones, i.e. my son, self-medicate. He was on medication when he was younger, but then he didn't want to take medication anymore because he got tired taking pills. And it's like, son, I have to take pills every day, because if I don't, I have issues with being either extremely on a high or extremely on a low. And that doesn't work, because I do really stupid things when I'm on a high, because I think I can fix it even if I do it, if it's wrong. So I have to take medicine, and you're going to have to do it one day too, because it's the only way you're going to deal. But I wait for that day to come. I take my medicine every day, because if I don't, and if I don't get adjustments to it, I have issues. And I know that. And I know the signs. And as we get older, I think we learn what the signs are. I
Mhm.
think we realize how we have to fit in to what the norm of society is. So we hide who we truly are to
Yes.
be able to fit in, which I think is wrong. We should be able to be us, and be the way we are, and be who we are, without having to hide behind some sort of a mask to the world. I mean, I've finally gotten to the point where it's like, if you don't like me for me, that's your loss, not mine,
Mhm,
because I'm going to be me. I'm going to be true to me. And those who love me, stay with me.
mhm,
If they don't want to be with me, that's their choice. They can move on. It's not my loss.
mhm.
But that's how I've had to think, to just be able to be myself.
One of the other
Yeah.
things my therapist said this morning, was she said that 80% of, I believe it's Mensa, is that the really
Yep,
smart people?
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
80% of Mensa is neurodivergent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people who are neurodivergent are extremely smart.
Mhm,
I got a funny
mhm.
joke for you.
Right.
How do you know someone's in Mensa? They'll tell you and they'll ask your IQ.
See, I know somebody who's in Mensa,
Me too.
and she is extremely smart, but she's got a lot of health problems too. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand as well, is we think so much that we forget about our bodies,
Mm.
and so we don't take proper care of our bodies. And that's what the normal people are around us for, to help us stay on track with our health,
Well, that's
because
one of the
they're the
things.
ones that remind us to eat something good, to take care of our bodies, to drink water, to do the things we need to do.
That's one of the things that Misha that test, because I did that test yesterday that she put up about monotropism or something. Um, and it's where you get so hyper focused on one thing you can't think about anything else. Everything else goes by the wayside. Eating, hygiene. You don't even know you need to go to the bathroom because you're so hyper focused until you absolutely
Mhm.
have to go or
Yeah.
you make a mess. And it's a lot of it's the hyper focus, and it's so interesting. You can't think about anything else. And if anyone comes up and interrupt you, you want to yell at them because they're interrupting your flow
Mm-hmm.
of thought. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just it's one, it's great for creativity. Two, it's terrible for productivity in a lot of ways because you
Yeah.
get so stuck on the one thing that
Mhm.
you can't do anything else, and just doing one thing isn't valid because you have to kind of it's best to sort of have a break every couple of hours so your mind gets a little bit clear. But I could read 3 big books in one night because I'm so hyper focused on it, and I'm a super speed reader. So I'll be there reading my big books. Like I read the Game of Thrones series in like a week. And that's just because I had to sleep because, I'm like, I can't keep my eyes open. I'll sleep. I slept for a couple of hours, read the book. My kids had noodles a lot because I'm like, sorry, kids. And I'll be reading the book, but burning the noodles, and it's like, sure, it's fun sometimes, but when it takes away from your life, it's not a superpower. It's a disability.
Yeah.
And that's what I think people find difficult to understand, is that it becomes a disability or a disorder, especially a disorder, when it disorders your life, when it's a disorder in your life that affects it to the point it makes your life a little bit more difficult, I think. And that's one of the things when, people walk around saying it's a superpower. Do you have it? And if you have it, I'm so glad you think it's a superpower for you, but don't ever call it one for me. Don't say I have one, because it's not a superpower. All it's done is make my life infinitely worse. Not
Yep.
worse. When I say worse, harder.
Yes, harder. I don't think our lives are worse for the neurodivergence. I think it's just a little bit harder for us because we do that hyper focus, and people bother us, and it's like, go away, leave me alone, don't talk to me, I don't want to hear it, And so when you get pulled away from that hyper focus, even though you're irritated, you realize after a few minutes that, oh wait, I've been hyper focused, I need to take this break and walk away from what I was doing, because it does. I agree with Cosmic. It disrupts our life. It makes things harder for us because we get so hyper focused on one activity that everything else you could care less about.
Yeah. Just to answer this question real quick here, Cheryl Niles. Yes, if you try to remember the guy's name, there is a therapist by the name of Dr. K. He goes by the handle Healthy Gamer GG, I think. He addressed this question. Apparently, in ADHD, or a lot of ADHD people, what happens is you have the amygdala, which are about the size of 2 almonds, and that also is, which incidentally is also damaged in the case of psychopaths. But you have the amygdala and the nucleus accumbens, which is right in front of it. Both of those are amped up seriously in the case of ADHD people. And that will affect fight or flight. It will put it in overdrive. And it also will make you can suffer from negative, I'll use that term, negative emotions more than your typical person, and it's really interesting. He did one show where he was talking how a lot of people with ADHD, whereas one person will look and they have like 5 units of hunger, they'll look at a cookie and okay, they'll have 5 units of wanting or of temptation. So they'll eat that cookie, they'll get 5 units. For the ADHD person, they'll have 10 units. It's close to the same person. Their their wanting of that will be much higher, but yet at the same time, at least in the case of food, when they eat it, they get much less return. The one first kid, he got 5 units of fulfillment out of it. Somebody with ADHD, they'll get 2.5. And then to make matters worse, when you're suffering from negative emotions, that's doubled again. And you see that even in the case of normal people. That's the reason why in breakups, things like that, when you're experiencing negative emotions, people will turn to food. They'll get a less return on investment. And with ADHD, it's amped up on top of it. So it's
Right.
multiplier effect. Let's see here.
Well, I was gonna say it's right. It's really easy to overeat.
Yes.
And it's been very easy for me to not be paying attention. Like I'm focused on something else. If I eat and I'm working on something else, it's really easy to eat and not realize when I'm full. Because the brain doesn't register quite the same way. But sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's actually easy to do that when you're not busy as well. When you're autistic because we don't always have a sense of what's going on in our bodies.
Mhm.
So my daughter had a big problem with it. She would eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. And one, it came from trauma because she had a sense of lack,
Mhm.
and two, she just didn't know that she was full. But she's also got food aversion, so there's certain food she won't eat. So if she was eating, I was happy. I didn't. It was never a big deal for me as long as she was eating, it was okay. And she liked healthy foods anyway, so I didn't have to worry about the lollies and the fast food and stuff. That only really happened when she got a boyfriend and he doesn't eat vegetables, so she ate whatever he did. And but it's so strange the way it works that way. Like I'll eat practically anything. Like I've eaten mullet gut, but I won't eat mangoes. Yeah, they're too slimy. I try them every year though because they're supposed to be really, really great, and I'm just like, no, are they?
What about dried ones?
They
Okay.
still taste like mango, and like when you taste it, and they kind of reconstitute in your mouth.
It's okay.
Can't do it. Can't do it. Oh, pawpaw's got that slime about it as well. But it's gross.
I've never had
It's so
that.
it's so strange, But mullet gut's not particularly appetizing either. But here I am giving it a go. Don't know if I would now. I was young. I was a kid. I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a go. I'll try some. But I grew up on the beaches of New Zealand with my Maori cousins, so I ate raw food and all that sort of stuff all the time. So weird fish stuff doesn't seem that strange to me. Weird fruit, on the other hand. But, yeah, but also I actually wanted to say about the neurotypicals and having conversation. Neurodivergence, having conversations with neurotypicals. I got distracted. Be back in a second because it's on Twitter. I have to go find it.
Well, she's looking that up. Yes, Awakened. That was one of the things that Chase Hughes is really big on, and I've been giving that a lot of thought. I would like to see if anybody else had the same opinion. The teaching that he holds to studying neuro. I keep thinking neurodivergent neuroscience for as long as he's had. He insists that everybody's wearing a mask, but I would add that I think some people have to put more energy into it because uh, not everybody. Some of us are on the edge of control, and some of us are a little, easier. But yeah, everybody wears a mask, but we all
Mhm.
pretend that we're not. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there was another interesting
I
quote here, which I could find it. It was talking about how everybody this person worked with at Google were neurodivergent.
yeah, I saw that.
That was interesting.
I was gonna say, not surprised. A
No.
Yeah.
ton of the people that I work with in IT are neurodivergent, ADHD, not typical. There's autism. There's a
Yeah.
ton of people in this. Yes. Sorry, I'm being.
Like I said, the creative ones, no matter what you create, they're the ones that are neurodivergent. They're the ones because they think outside the box.
Hmm.
They think of different ways of doing things or explaining things.
Yeah.
And you were talking about emotions and like the negative emotions. And I think women have it even worse when they're going through menopause because those emotions are intensified. And like, I'm not an angry person. And yet my son can trigger my anger just like that. And I just want to explode. But I mean, I don't for the most part. A couple times I have, but for the most part, I don't because that's not who I am. I know who I am. And so when I get angry like that, I get mad at myself because I'm not an angry person. So it just intensifies that feeling again. And it just like,
Do you,
it's hard to control.
do you know that women with ADHD and autism have this thing where it's called, um, this is on the Queensland government site, so it's a known disorder. It's not some woo woo thing. Oh, I feel this. But it's a premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It's PMDD, and it's actually its symptoms are extreme or sudden mood changes and emotional sensitivity,
Hmm.
Hmm.
irritability or anger, depressed mood, feeling hopeless, worthless, or guilty, anxiety, tension, feeling on edge, little to
Hmm.
no interest in usual activities, work, school, friends, hobbies. And it goes on. It's a whole bunch of different stuff. So it's like post menstrual disorder times a million. And I used to notice my daughter would only have her meltdowns maybe a week or so before she was due, and it was all the hormones and stuff racing around her that she didn't know how to handle, emotionally regulate. But you'll
Hmm.
find the majority, not all women with PMDD, premenstrual, post, whatever it is, disorder, dysphoric disorder, will have neurodivergence, but most women with neurodivergence will have PMDD.
Mm.
Um, and it's because hormones, basically. And so I ended up putting my daughter on the pill. And if you're not wanting to get pregnant, you don't have to have the sugar pill. So she was on it almost constantly. It's actually better for your body as well to not have constantly all these periods. Anyway, back to the thing. Her doing that actually calmed down a lot of the symptoms. I wouldn't say all. I've got the scar to prove it, but the majority, she did calm down quite a lot.
Mm.
And I'm just, that's out there. So, people who have the hormones and stuff with, what's it called? When you have it later in life, the hormonal thing. So,
Menopause.
menopause, that's one. I know I forgot that. Because I'm in menopause right now. But
That's
anyway.
what I'm into.
Yeah, so it's like, no, I'm joking. I'm just on a man-o-pause. No men.
I can't say that. I got two.
But it's just like, it's amazing to find out, because you think, I thought I was going crazy that it was happening, and, thinking, oh my God, is this actually what life is going to be like for her for the rest of her life? Because I never had it. I was the same all the time. And I think it's because I got so used to it. So, yeah, PDA and ODD, you know, that's ODD is considered the child version of PDA generally. That's I can't remember the letters. There's so many letters. But I was just thinking, like, when you were saying then about menopause, it makes so much sense, because I wonder now if, because I do seem to have a bit more of the symptoms of post menstrual disorder now that I'm a bit older. I'm sort of wondering if that's something to do with getting closer, and maybe the hormones get stronger near the end. And I don't know. I don't even know the science. I haven't looked into it. But
Yeah,
I was
it
just
it,
wondering
it
if that's
is.
the same.
Yeah, a lot of like our hormones change. That's why there's for women there's like hormone treatments and stuff like that. But I can't do them because it triggers in me like I get angry now. I would be
Mm.
raging, like raging all the time if I was given hormone therapy because I couldn't take the pill because every time I took the pill or any form of birth control like that, it turned me super angry and I couldn't deal.
Mm.
So I can't do that. So I have to find other ways to deal with it. And the best way for me to deal with it right now is just to control it. And because I have learned to control certain emotions and stuff and not let them just explode out on everybody, I can do that. But it's very tiring. It's very, very tiring because when I get angry, I don't like being angry. So it's like I have to contain it and then journal it, which gets it out. But by the time I'm done, I'm just exhausted and I have to take a nap. So I'm glad I don't get angry very often.
Sorry about that. I had to tell the dog off. He's trying to get out of his crate. Stop that, put up.
Just just on a side note, I found this interesting. I thought a mullet gut was a type of hairstyle, but it turns out I had to look it up. Sandy Wendy is correct. A mullet gut is a type of fish.
Yes, sorry, mullet. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Mullet,
I
gut
thought
of
it
fish.
was a hair job. I thought it was a cheap 80s hair thing.
I was thinking the
Well,
same
it
thing.
comes from the fish. It's like the word thong actually comes from the actual thing thong, because it looks like one on your foot. But we call them jandals in New Zealand. I think you call them flip flops.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But yeah, you've got the shape on your foot of what it looks like, and so that's why they're called that, because Australians are strange. It looks like one. That's what it is.
Oh, yes.
So is Americans, flip flops. Flip flop, flip flop.
Well,
Did you
I
see my other's keeper comment, Ben, to
Yes, I
you?
did. Yeah, I
how
just
you,
flashed it on the
Keep missing all
screen.
the
Yeah.
comments.
Um,
I was
yes.
gonna say you're married. You should be used to this.
Yes. How you doing with all the estrogen talk? Yes, that is something I I just maybe you call it disassociation, which interesting
Oh,
enough.
sorry.
Disassociation is very common for people with ADHD, and I thought a disassociation was something that it really uh I mean really when you get down to it, disassociation is not, it can mean many things to many people, and there's certainly a dissociative disorder, but basic dissociation's not being present really. It's just being, some people, I think they used to call it being in your head a lot of times. And yes, journaling and mindfulness is the big one to can help to control that. But and mindfulness is also the way to get a bigger return on investment for food if you're not getting enjoyment is taking time. But I can see why we don't do that because who wants to sit there and no TV, no, I'm just going to eat. I'm just enjoying the
Talk
food.
to people.
And it's like, yeah, we like to, get the most biggest bang for our time.
Oh, I got distracted. I did find it. Where is it? I lost it again. I forgot I should bookmark things.
Welcome to my life.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I don't know if I've experienced either one of those things that Awaken talked about. And I
Oh,
guess how would
Well,
you
one is
know?
pathological demand avoidance. Is like, so if someone says that say I need to go make myself a drink of water. Buddha's having a complaint right now. And someone says, Christy, go get yourself a drink of water. You need one now. I'll be like, no. And then I'll rather go thirsty because someone told me to do it. Even though I
mhm.
know I need to do it, that's the pathological demand avoidance. You're going to avoid what anyone demands of you. Ask me, sure, but don't tell me. You don't tell me what to do. Just
Yeah,
guide me in the right direction by giving me advice and being gentle about it. But as soon as you tell me what to do, I'm gonna because it's like I don't do that.
I'm like I'm like that too. Because if somebody tells me I need to do something, I just look at them and go, "Excuse me? You're telling me what to do? I don't think so." But if
Yeah,
you
and
ask me
To
and
just
or say it nicely, I'll do it.
yeah, and ODD is oppositional defiance disorder, and that's when your kid might go have a shower because you tell them to have a shower. Um, Actually, one of my friends, my carer, she said that there's two really important words for people who like children, young children. I don't know if it'll work on teenagers, but must and now. So you tell the child if they need to go to bed instead of saying it's time for bed because that's an open-ended question. It's an open-ended statement. It's time for bed. Well, what time is it for bed? Because I go to bed at a different time to you. So that's a whole range of question that goes into that child's mind. My mind too, and like of what. So you have to tell them a specific thing. You must go to bed now. Must and now. And that takes away all the options. You don't have to
mhm.
do it meanly. You can say, you must go to bed now, and it's like, this is what you have to do, and it is now. You give them what they need to do and the time, and you'll find that you'll probably get a lot more effective behavioral things.
Okay, so I have a question. My daughter, her son is a neurodivergent, and he has been getting himself in trouble at school. He's in kindergarten and he or preschool, and he goes to daycare. And at school, he'll steal things off the teacher's desk, run away with it, make the teachers chase him till they catch him and to take it away from him. And he'll throw toys and hit the other kids with toys. And he has tried to escape from daycare a few times. So my question is how would you all deal with that when your child is like that?
My child was like that. And then that's when I got told that I need to have her dealt with, otherwise she would spend a lot of time not at school. Like I went to school, there she was diagnosed in grade 1, which is their first year, the first year after prep or kindy or whatever you call it. And I spent a long time trying to see, well, I didn't think it was ADHD or autism. I just thought it was coming from a trauma environment for a year and a half because see, they didn't seem like this before that to me. And
Mm-hmm.
and she climbed a tree, kicked the principal in the head. I got called into the principal's office 4 times each that year for my kids because they got suspended. Like in grade 1, my daughter was getting suspended because the teachers couldn't handle her. So they said if she wants to continue to go into the school, you need to have her treated. So I basically was like, all right, I'll try the medication at this point because I was anti-medication for sure. And my son was in grade 4. My daughter was in grade 2 when I finally agreed to put them on medication. The change in them was remarkable. I didn't get to see it at home because they were never on medication at home. Went like on the weekends or school holidays, not on it because it can stunt your growth if you're on it constantly. They're actually thinking now that if
Oh,
children
shit.
don't, they're actually thinking now that children who are on it constantly, it can cause them depression later in life.
Ooh.
So, that's one of the things. It's like a way up of what do you do? Do you help them, participate in class, or can you potentially give them depression later on in life because this mess with their brain when it's at its most important time of functional development? Like all through your teenage years, right up until I don't know, 25 for women. I think it's about 50 for men. Start to get joking. I don't actually know what the ages are. I think it's in the 20s for men, or for early 20s for women, and late 20s for men. Yeah, so, and that's when your brain is actually fully developed into what it's going to be. Up until then, it's pretty malleable. And even after that, your brain's pretty malleable. If you have a brain injury, you can,
Yeah.
cut a bit of brain out, learn something else differently. But it takes practice. It takes building up those things in your brain. And that's one of the most difficult things about children who don't get early interventions. I'm a big early intervention person because without it, these behaviours become ingrained. It's very, very difficult, especially in those of us who are so routine-oriented and pattern-oriented. So hard to get out of patterns. You have to force yourself. And if life is too difficult in every other aspect, you can find comfort in those patterns.
Yeah. So what they're doing is they're just trying to make it so that there's consequences for his actions. If you do this, then this will happen. And they just keep reaffirming it that you do this, this is going to happen. And my daughter's also getting him back into therapy so that, he's only 5.
Yeah, I think that's too
He's
early
5.
for
He's 5.
medication,
Or he'll
personally.
be 5 in December.
Yeah,
So,
but
he's young.
it's consistency. It's consistency and routine. So everybody has the same rules all the time wherever he goes. He should know different house, different rules. Like, when he goes to grandma's house, he's allowed to have certain things he might not be allowed to have at his mum's house. But that's because it's grandma's house. So that's something that should be done. But I think if he knows what's expected of him from everybody, and it's never going to be a question of, am I going to get a different punishment for doing the same thing from a different person? And that's one of the things I found the most difficult as a child, and even right till now, is inconsistency. If someone is inconsistent, if I see that person treating someone else differently to how they treat me, even if I'm doing the exact same thing, being just as nice, then I'm like, well, why? What have I done? So I think a lot of it's consistency and patterns and scheduling and routine. And you'll find that routine is the best thing for us because we need to know when things are happening and what's happening, and even we need to know what's happening before it happens. And even if something's going to change, tell us before it happens, especially when they're young. So if we're going to go to the park today, right, or we'll go to the park tomorrow, you can say we'll go to the park tomorrow if it's sunny. So if it starts to rain, that child already knows that there's a possibility of not going to the park if the weather's not okay. But if you're like, we're going to the park tomorrow, and then next day there's no park, you're like, well, what the hell is this? Where's me park? And you won't take into account, because you're already upset that your plans have changed, that it's raining. You'll be like, no, I want to go to the park. You said we're going to the park, take me to the park. So, and that's a lot of things with inconsistent routine, and also just constant honesty. I mean, you don't honesty at their level.
Yes.
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 So I just think routine is just amazing for children. All
Yeah,
children.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. My daughter tries to do that, keep routine. Bedtime, 7:00. He'll actually say at 7:00, Mommy, I'm tired. I want to go to bed. And he'll go to bed. So he's got routine. The problem is her ex, any kind of not being able to do things, they don't follow that. So he doesn't have that routine at the other place on the weekends,
Fine, it's
and he
going to be
gets to
really
pretty much do whatever he wants, which isn't right. And she's tried to tell them, look, you can't do that, but they don't believe he's neurodivergent.
Mm.
I can tell you what's likely to happen, not guaranteed, is that because there's rules and consistency at one parent's house and lack of rules and consistency at the other parent's house, he's likely to drift towards an inconsistent parent until the inconsistent parent can't handle it anymore. And then they'll send him back and be like, well, I don't know what's wrong with this kid. And it'd be like, you are. You're what's wrong
Yep.
because you're not giving the routine. And it happens so
Yep.
many times. And that's why co-parenting is so difficult, because
It
sometimes
is.
the other parent uses the fact that they're the ones who gives them more fun or less rules, less time, less fun, less rules generally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they like being the fun parent and getting the happy kid who wants to spend time with them all the time until it becomes hard.
Yeah. And he keeps saying that she's a bad mom and that he needs to have custody of him, and it's just this constant battle between the two of them, but she's trying hard not to downgrade the dad and his
Oh yeah, you
family.
never do that because then the
Yeah.
child will
She
definitely go towards the other one.
yeah. And she doesn't do that. She knows not to do that. She came from a split house. I divorced my ex-husband, and we tried to keep things even keeled between the two houses. Now, sometimes I was a little softer and I'd let them get away with a few things more than he would, but that's because I was mom and I got weekend and visitation and holidays. So it was a little harder, but I did try to stick to whatever rules he would set for them. Um, but with my daughter, I mean, there is no rules at the other parents. And he doesn't even go to the father's house. He goes to the grandmother's house and stays there all weekend. And the father doesn't hardly see him. And so it's like, I told her, I said, the only way this is going to work is to have routine consistency and get full custody with them having maybe supervised visitation, for the basic fact that they're going to make it harder on him and he's going to struggle all through school because he doesn't have that consistency.
Has he been diagnosed neurodivergent?
Yes.
So
Yes.
what can I'm not sure if it happens over there, but you can get medical reasons as to why the other parent is court ordered to follow a certain routine and all that sort of stuff for the sake of the child, and if they don't, sake of the child's health, and if they don't, then they lose as much time with
Yeah.
them and because this is the most important development
Yeah.
stage of his life. He's so little,
Yes.
and like
Yes.
he doesn't need this sort of pull, and
Yeah.
but also kids need both parents, so it's just like, what
Yeah.
do you do? And see, I honestly didn't even have to worry about it because my kid's dad used my kids as a weapon for me, and he's like, I'm not going to have any time to do with them because you left me all those years ago. I'm like, who's going to suffer? I'm not going to suffer.
Yeah.
I obviously left you
Yeah.
because I didn't want to spend time with you, so I'm all right not seeing you again. But the
Yeah.
kids, I used to have to call him up. Oh, well, actually, on Facebook. Facebook was really handy because every time I hadn't heard from my kids and I let it go a couple of weeks, I'd be like, send out messages to his family saying, if you didn't contact me, I'm going to report them as missing and do a welfare check.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't heard from them, I don't even know where they are. And that happened for 18 months. And because we didn't have a legal agreement in place, he didn't steal his kids. They weren't kidnapped. You can't steal your own
Yeah.
kids.
Mm.
Yeah. That's how it is here too. So I will tell her about that because I don't know if the state of Illinois has that kind of law in place, but that would definitely be to her advantage because then
Yeah,
he'd have that
it's
consistency.
you've got to get evidence. It's all about evidence. Like it needs to be backed up by doctors, psychologists,
Mm-hmm.
specialists. I mean, there are neurodivergent specialists out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that means they are neurodivergent or they're specialists in neurodivergence. they never actually
Could be
say.
both.
Yeah, both. Why not both? But it's just like I think it's a really important thing for that. And a lot of times laws haven't caught up with the research, so they don't understand that you know, most people would it's common sense. You'd think that children with these sort of special needs need particular different treatment, not treatment, not special treatment, but different. So it's equitable.
Different treatment. Hmm.
Mm.
They have those boundaries and the formation of having rules and boundaries and consistency in their life, because I agree, they need that. They, if they don't have it, they get so confused, and I think that's why they lash out and they do the things they do, because there's not that consistency that's needed. So I will tell her about checking into the law on that, because she does have all the documentation that he is neurodivergent, and he has talked to therapists, he's talked to psychiatrists, he's had all that. So definitely I will tell her about that. So thank you, because I mean, I was at a loss as to how to help her, other than tell her, go back to court and get full custody, because she needs consistency. So
Becca, I'm wondering, as somebody as a fellow ADHD sufferer, do you find when you're in quiet environments, the noises in your head tend to amp up, that your body in loud environments, the noise going on in your head will calm down, making your brain tries to keep a certain amount of I don't know what you would call it, a certain type of level or something. Do you find that to be at all the case?
My brain runs all the time.
Mm,
It does have down moments, and I do appreciate quiet a lot more now, because I can't focus as well when there's noise. As I mean, there was a time when I used to be able to do my homework to music. I could have rock music on and be doing my homework and still do stuff. I
mm,
can't.
yeah.
I can't anymore. Um, the cats, DJ's being a little needy today. Um, but I have to have quiet in order to kind of process stuff.
Hmm.
Otherwise, there's too much going
Sure.
on, and it doesn't. Even meditating. I mean, I
Mm,
I know people say they're not doing it right because their brain just goes all over. My brain still goes all over.
mm,
It it just is a little calmer when I'm meditating than it
mm.
was when I'm not, generally.
Well, I do know that was one of the things that was it Jason P made a comment that he needs more RAM earlier in the conversation. It's really interesting because when people's that was the example you raised just now of having to have everything quiet. I know that that's the case of that, our at least my brain and a lot of other people's, when they're looking for an address. That's the reason why you have Led Zeppelin, da, 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 da. But until you're looking for an address, then all of a sudden you have to turn it down to look better, because your brain only has so much power.
Yeah,
And
you
I
have to
do
turn
find
everything down to see better.
I do find it to be interesting though, because a lot of times, we see people's eyes and their body language. If their eyes are kind of fluttering like that, a lot of times it's basically akin to you're closing out apps in the background. You're just like your brain's
Does
just like
body language work the
what?
same in neurodivergent people? Because I know that I have a lot of stims that might look like I'm actually lying from what,
Oh,
I've watched some of those behavioral people, and I'm just there
well,
going, rubbing my face and,
yeah.
telling the
But the
truth
I
about
think
stuff.
we've masked.
I
I
feel stuff
think
everywhere.
the thing is that any body language
Now I
person
feel stuff everywhere.
worth their salt, they'll tell you that what you have to do is get baseline, because like a lot of this stuff here, the behavior table of elements, it all depends upon what the baseline is for that person. If you have somebody that's normally like, I grab my throat, that's actually a sign of dishonesty. Or, well, no, it by itself isn't. You're looking for clusters. Yeah, if you do that number,
I pick at my lip.
yeah. Um, but the thing is,
I rub my nose. I can,
if, if
for
it's
lots of different reasons.
if it's normal behavior, you have to rule it out, because that's just the way people are different. So a lot of us have different habits. If somebody's trying to smoke, object insertion into your mouth, that's actually a big one. But if you're trying to smoke, you'll be in your base. If you're trying to quit smoking, or if you like in an environment where you can't and you really want to drag, yeah, you'll put something in your mouth, and that is just part of your baseline at that point. So yeah,
Yeah,
there's
would
a lot
you
of
maybe have different baselines for different situations? Like,
yeah,
say, my baseline for my friendship would be different to my
sure.
baseline for someone I'd never met.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
I
thing is
behave
too,
completely differently.
and
Yeah.
that's the thing too is every situation you have to establish what baseline is for that person in that situation. Like if you go talk to police, like you'll be a little more on guard than not, and you'll have a different behaviors. A lot of your adapters will be the same, touching your face,
Yeah.
which
Whenever I get a bit excited or a bit anxious or anything, my nose, it just gets really itchy. And I'm sort of wondering, do you know how I was talking about how when you get really, really stressed, putting cold here is effective? Just thinking about it now, I never kind of correlated the two. That my nose is the thing that gets, like, it's itchy now because I'm talking about it. So the thing on my face gets super itchy whenever I'm a little bit, like, say if I get a really good shot in pool, I'll rub my nose, or
mm,
if I'm really upset that someone said something they shouldn't, I'll rub my nose. So it's like maybe that's my behavior thing for
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
But
and
I'm
there's
just wondering if it's got something to do, because it's here and here that I feel
yeah,
it. I wonder if that's got something to do with whatever it is that can calm you, well, anyone
mm,
down if they put it here, if they're in a meltdown and on the back of your neck. So I have to look into that.
yeah, I guess I could see that. But yeah, it's yeah, you just want to make sure you steer clear of absolutists. A lot of them will say every time you look left, you're thinking of something. You're lying. You're getting ready to lie. That just a lot of times you're looking left. You're just trying to think of how do I word this. I don't
I'm
quite.
probably bored with the conversation. What's over there?
Yeah, when that's when you. Okay, yeah. Tell a
Yep.
person's not paying attention at that point. But yeah,
Well, it's not that I'm not trying. It's sometimes it's that I'm thinking so hard about
yeah.
looking like I'm paying attention, like
Oh yeah,
nodding and at the right time. That's all I can think about. Like, okay, when's the space in the conversation? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well,
And
not
then I've
not.
forgotten what they've said because I'm trying to get them hmms right.
Yeah.
So, because I got told that if I don't often enough, people don't, they stop thinking that I'm listening. So I have to keep going mm-hmm. And it's so weird to me because when people do that to me, I'm like, sometimes it can stop me in my conversation. I'm like, which bit are you mm-hmm at? But that's the whole rabbit hole of thought that I've got constantly going through my head. And Misha was saying that she's never felt bored. The only time I've ever felt bored is when I am like super sad or whatever, and the head stops whirring,
Mm,
because all I can think about is what I'm sad about. So, and then I'm like, well, this is boring. I don't really want to think about this.
mm.
So I'll watch YouTube and I'll go down a rabbit hole of camping.
Yes, yes, and the psychopathic stare. Yes,
That
if you want a good psychopathic stare, you can look up the AI bots that they have on the web. They
is the
do
reason I
the
don't look at the camera.
psychopathic stare where they constantly do
God,
that.
that is freaky.
I just give the bored stare.
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I was gonna say,
yeah.
I was gonna say, I think though, I don't know about you all, but I've learned to mask so that the ADHD wasn't as obvious, that the neurodivergence wasn't as obvious, copying what other people did just to like paying attention and seeing what other people do and then just kind of copying what they do because then you're fitting in. Because all I remember ever wanting when I was a kid was to fit in. And I, of course, never fit in because then there was the cult too. So between the cult and everything else, I never fit the mold of what I was supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah, and
Then
that's
again, I don't know that I do now either. And I
well,
do have issues with people telling me what to do, which is also partially why I'm single. I mean, I have a partner, but part of it is, get married. Somebody might tell me that they think I should do something, and I don't like someone telling me what I should do.
I don't
mm,
like it when someone tells me where to put the forks. I know where the forks go. They go wherever I want them to go. And don't you move them, otherwise I'm going to have a big upset when I have. You know what?
Yes.
Yeah, and I've stopped yelling at people for it. I just really loudly put them back where they're meant to go. And the teaspoons go here. In fact, I've taken the teaspoons completely out of the drawer. They're their own little unicorn holder next to where you make the coffee. So that's where the teaspoons go, not in any other place in the drawer. I mean, they're right over there with all the other teaspoons. Forks go where the forks go. Spoons, knives. No, it goes knives, forks, spoons for me. Knives starting on the right. Because if they don't do that, if I look in the drawer, it's wrong, especially if it's at my house. If I look at someone else's drawer at their house, I'm like, oh, they do that wrong, but they're allowed. It's their house. But it's totally wrong. I mean, Mel does her forks wrong. She does it wrong, but it's her house. So she can have them wrong, but it still drives me mental.
Yes. I have to walk away, like when my dishwasher was running. I would have to walk away if anybody else loaded the dishwasher, because to me, they were loading it wrong. So
Yes.
to not cause issues within the family, I just walk away, let them do their thing, and don't pay attention to it. But put the dishes away wrong? Oh, no. Certain things go in certain places, and when those certain things aren't in their certain places, I'm just like,
I call it autistic rage.
My mom, and I talked about this in therapy too. I am so much more like my mother than I would like to think, really. And she, of course, more than she would like to think too. But everything had to be like towels had to be folded a very specific way. You didn't just fold the towels to have them folded. You fold them this very specific way or you're doing it wrong and you redo it until you do it right, kind of thing. And it just made me think, my mom is just probably as neurodivergent as I am. She just doesn't want to admit that. Because
It's often hereditary.
I think a lot of it is hereditary. I think a lot of it is hereditary.
Yeah.
Because my grandmother, I swear my grandmother was bipolar. Because she and I would clash sometimes so hard, and she acted just like I do, like with the highs and the lows. And so it's like, but I used to call her the battle axe because she could be so harsh. But she also had a hard life growing up. But I swear she dealt with trauma and neurodivergence.
Yeah. I think neurodivergence, I wonder if it makes us more susceptible to trauma because we are so sensitive and emotional. I know I go into shock real easy, It's like proper medical shock. I go into it quite easy. And I wonder if that's because of my perception of the world, that what I find so incredibly shocking, which is generally people being hurt or people hurting me, other people don't find so shocking because it's something they expect. Like something that I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I'm not. I don't think I'm more sensitive than anybody, but I think I'm overly sensitive to so many things, like sensations, touch, feelings, emotions, smells, tastes, all that sort of stuff. And it just feels like this world is full of things all the time, like things touching me, hair on my face, and I'm just constantly walking around sensitive. And I'm just wondering if that's got something to do with our brains being wired differently, because there has to be a scientific reason behind it. It can't just be, I'm a little bit sensitive because I'm autistic. I've got the tisms.
Well, and I was going to say, and multiple people have said this, and my partner's even said it, and I've gone to him for, like, am I missing something? A couple of my friends I go to, have I missed something in this? Or like Tony, my conversation with you about the colleague, going, because I am naive a lot of the time. Like, I will miss some of the stuff that is going on that other people will see that I just don't see. And I know when they look at the empath scale, I fall on the empath scale because I can walk into a room, I can sense the room, I can sense people not telling me the truth or not sharing everything, and I don't always have a reason for describing it, like for having that feeling, but I do. But there's other things that I obviously don't pick up on because I'm naive enough to not necessarily know. And I don't know how much of that is the sheltered life growing up. How much is potentially neurodivergence or the ADHD, or I don't know.
I have a thing. My therapist said that it's actually because you grow up in trauma, if you grow up in a traumatic situation as a child, you have to become, it's cold here. You can see all the, but you become overly sensitive to
Yeah.
other people's emotions because their emotions can be dangerous for you, or,
Mhm.
so you always have to be aware. So sometimes I think empathy is more a situational thing. Like, everyone should have empathy. And look,
Mhm.
I'm not anti woo woo, but I personally try and find a scientific reason behind it before I do the woo woo. um, so I think it's trauma that makes us hypersensitive, because my therapist says, he says that a lot of people who grow up in traumatic childhood environments, who haven't been nurtured the way that, we think we should be nurtured, which is the typical family type situation. We're wondering why we don't have that, and it stems, and it's probably something really inbuilt from a very, very young age. And he said he thinks specifically it's for me because my mother was so young; she didn't know how to look after me, so I was probably left to cry a lot, and learnt that crying didn't get me anywhere. Crying out for help, didn't get me anywhere. So, and that's why I'm so sensitive to other people's emotions. So I walk in exactly the same. I walk into a party and I know who's the people who are safe to talk to, because they've got a gentle, quiet vibe around them. And you'll find that
Yeah.
the spicy brains always end up in a crowd talking to each other, because we're either talking about gaming or whatever our special interest is. Do you like trains? I like trains. What sort of trains do you like? Sort of thing, And I'm probably what you'd call a typical autistic in that I really love trains.
Mm.
I really love trains.
I do love that
Yeah, I
term.
love trains.
I do absolutely love the term that we started to adopt, spicy brain.
Yes.
That's
Yeah, neurospicy. It's been a thing for ages, but a lot of people think that I'm making fun of other people who have it. I'm not. I'm making fun of myself, because
mm,
I have a very neurospicy brain. It makes me quite spicy. Like, I can be very salty and hot-minded and stuff when I get passionate about something. And I can be super passionate about a lot of things, like whatever I've been through. If I know the feeling, I'm passionate about that. And it's something that I find, like, Tony. Do you ever find that? Like, do you find that with your children that are, do you find that they get a bit more passionate about stuff?
Some do, some don't. The ones that I know are more neurodivergent, they're the ones that get really passionate about things.
mm,
And quite honestly, I think the only one that escaped any kind of neurodivergence is my oldest son, Josh.
mm,
He's the one that's usually calm, usually just like kind of the mellow one of the family, whereas Ashley will get very focused and very like, her house is impeccably clean. She can't stand dog fur, and she's got a dog and two cats, and she can't stand dog fur on the floor. She has to sweep just about every day because she can't stand having that on the floor. Like, if she came in my house, she would be picking up a broom and sweeping because there's dog fur everywhere.
That's
It's like
actually
an
pretty
everyday, all
practical.
day thing at my house because I got so many dogs and everything and cats. But Amber is the same way. She gets very focused on things right now. Oh, and one's for Amber and her best friend Laura, who she cares for. They just lost one of their dogs yesterday. She passed away. She was really old, but she passed away naturally. They didn't have to do any assistance with her. Matter of fact, she was in Amber's room when it happened. Amber woke up to her gone.
mm.
So one's for Amber and Laura, please, because they're going through a really hard time right now. But Amber's that way too. Tamara, she's got the highs and lows like me. So she's like, she can be very passionate about things. Jonathan, again, very much neurodivergent, spicy brain. He gets hyper focused on cars or on motorcycles and just like, he's got to have it. He's got to have it. He's got to fix it. He's got to work on it. He's got to, and he just like, psh. For me, it's my writing. I get like so hyper focused. And I think it's come down through the family lines because it comes, for Jonathan especially, it comes from both sides of the family. Migraines come from both sides of the family. So he has suffered from migraines since he was 7. Had to fire a doctor over that one too. But yeah, I see it in my kids. I see it in myself. I see it in Dustin. Not so much in Nathan. Nathan's like the chill one. He likes certain things, but he's more laid back, calmer, can be more reasonable at times than the rest of us. He's about the only one that can deal with Jonathan
Mm.
because, like, Dustin and I will get so irritated and just like want to wring his little neck. But Nathan's the one that's calmer, and so he can talk to Jonathan and get him to calm down and be more mellow. I think Jonathan having a child has helped him calm down. Not that I want him to have a child at 21,
Mm.
but it happened. He has one, but it's helping with his growth as a person and learning how to control certain things like his emotions. I don't think that would have happened otherwise
Mm.
unless he got help. And he's actually willing to get help now, too. So, yes, I definitely see in the children how they get very passionate about different things and how if things aren't going the way they think they should, then they have issues with it. You know,
Yeah,
they don't deal well with change. Jonathan, we were talking about schedules and how things work. Yeah, you throw him a monkey wrench in that, and he gets so upset. Like, if we know somebody's coming, we have to tell him well in advance that somebody's coming to the house, or he flips out. He flipped out on a friend because he told a friend, "Don't come over right now because I can't deal with it." And I mean, he about attacked his friend for coming over because he just totally lost it on him.
I
And
see.
his dad had to step in.
I don't lose it at people. I'm just very uncomfortable if people just rock up to my house, and it's nothing to do with because anyone who's just rocking up to my house, they know where I live, so they're my friend, and my friends don't care if my house is messy. Otherwise, they wouldn't be my friends.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
yeah, so but it's like I can't deal with it. Don't like and I also can't just rock up to someone's house. I have to send them a message, make sure it's
Mm-hmm.
okay, that they're going to be home, you're not going to be busy, I'm not going to be interrupting anything, I'm not going to be too much, basically. But I also find it really interesting because my son is a karma of my children. I'd say if he, in the old version of diagnosed, I'm not going to use the old version because I don't like Asperger's myself personally. If you like that name, that's up to you. But it's for me, it relates to very negative time in history, and testing on people who didn't have the ability to say yes or no or the right even. So I'm just like, nah, I'll not do that. So there's level 1, 2, 3 here in Australia. I'm level 2. I don't like the term high functioning because sometimes I can be high functioning, sometimes I'm middle functioning, sometimes I cannot function, as in my brain blacks out, literally. And so I find that it's really difficult, and it can be ableist to always say to someone, like if they're autistic, that they're high functioning because you don't see what they're like at home. You don't know what sort of level it goes into appear high functioning out in the world. So if someone classes themselves as high functioning, that's all great. But for other people who don't have their disorder and all that sort of stuff to do it, it's a bit dicey. But my son, I'll go back to that. I got distracted. He's very calm. He's cool. He won't argue with me, which I find really annoying. He's like, I'm not arguing with you. And he'll slowly shut his door while looking. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just like, you argue with me. I want to argue with you. and, and he's just so calm. I'm like, where did you get that? And I think he actually, it's completely 100% him because his father's not calm. I'm definitely not calm. His sister's not calm. He only grew up, like, there were three of us. We were three musketeers against the rest of the world, me and my kids. He grew up so calm. This kid, he's like a changeling. Where's my kid? But I think it's developed because he had two very passionate, strong-willed women in the house, and he didn't really get a word in edgewise. So he had to be calm. He had to be the rock, you know. So I wonder if he's put on a mask. I wonder if his mask is calmness.
It could very well be because of the
Hmm.
fact that, the two strong women, he's the only male. And so he's got to be the calm one to make sure you two can be calmed down. And so that's his mask. And he puts that out there. but when he's on his own, he might be totally different.
You know what? I think you've hit the nail exactly on the head, because he would have to get in between me and his sister. I mean, and the thing is, I wasn't attacking her; she was attacking me. So he was always feeling. I think he always felt like he had to protect me. So I think
Hmm.
that's really interesting. Hi, Tampa. Yeah.
Hi,
Wow.
Tampa.
Thank you for that. That's something that's
You're
kind of
welcome. My pleasure. Well,
yeah.
you helped me out with my grandson, so I can help you out with your son.
Ouroboros.
And that's what I like about this group is we're here for each other. And when one doesn't have an answer for something, somebody else can give them that answer. And that's what's so great about it. And Ben, thank you for doing this so that Carol can, do the things she needs to do. And this gives her time and she doesn't have to worry about the rest of us not having each other. So I thank you from the deepest bottom of my heart
Mm.
that we have this.
Mm.
It means so much to me. And I have missed you guys so much, but I have to admit the 5 days I spent in Springfield, Missouri with Dustin were so helpful
Mm.
because I was able to relax and just do and not think and just be. And I had a really good time. And so being able to come back to this is nice.
You needed that, I think, more than you really knew and or maybe wanted to admit to yourself.
Mm.
I agree. And Dustin and I learned a few spicy things about each other.
Mm.
Uh,
That's actually quite funny. That there's. I always thought Springfield was a fake name from The Simpsons, and then because we've got a Springfield just up the road here, so I actually drive through it every time I have to go home or back here, or to the old house. So I'm like, I do the Simpsons theme song every time I'm driving through because I still think it's hilarious. I've been here like 2 years. So it's just like, there's a real Springfield in America. Are the people
Yes.
all yellow?
Yeah. Springfield, Mass. Yeah.
yeah, there's a
Great.
Springfield, Illinois, Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah,
Massachusetts and Rick
Matter of fact,
Springfield.
matter of fact, Springfield, Illinois is the capital of Illinois.
well,
Hmm.
you can tell I did really well in geography.
And a lot of people don't realize that Rick Springfield was actually on Battlestar Galactica for about like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Rick
he
Springfield,
was.
Springfield the singer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doesn't he
I
sing that
remember
song
that.
about young people on the beach?
Oh, that was Baywatch, I think.
No,
Yeah,
no,
that
there's a
was
song about it. It's
Baywatch.
like, "Come," said the girl, go down to the sand." Who sings that one? Because I'm like, that's a really creepy song.
No.
Oh, isn't that the Beach Boys?
No, I don't think so. I don't want to sing it because I don't want to
How,
get like
how
copyright
did
strikes.
how did
So
the lyrics go though? I mean, just saying
it's
them.
"Come," said the boy. "Let's go down to the sand." Or "Come," said the girl. Let's do what you want to do. I'll be a man for you. Whoa, 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 whoa. I
Now,
can't remember what it's called.
oh
I'll have to
my
Google
gosh,
it.
I was.
Right? Me and karaoke.
I'm just
I like
Googling it.
karaoke.
I hear you
I
about
like it, but
karaoke.
I'm not very good at it.
Mulan. That's not
I'm
very
not
good.
either, but
James
I'm just gonna
Blunt,
look it up now.
Matt Cook, Boys the Men.
There's a James Blunt, I'll be your man. I don't
Oh
know though.
no. Although it's really funny. James Blunt is hilarious. He makes so much fun of himself. I've lost the mouse. I've lost the mouse arrow. There it is.
Well, yeah, but I do hear you about karaoke. I still have to challenge Kristen Melinda to. I have to get a. I was trying to do a heavy metal thrash version of Love Shack, just to send it,
mm,
just to send it to her, and yeah, to get back at her, and yeah, to dare her to try to do something similar. And yeah, I still got to record it. I thrashed my voice once on it, but
It's Mondo Rock.
it's who?
It was Mondo Rock. Come said the boy from 1984.
Wow,
That's
Mondo.
old.
I
that's
don't know that
that's a ways back. I don't even think I know that.
comes into point.
I
I
know it. I don't know
don't.
if, but it was on the radio here a lot, and
Mm,
I was always a little bit creeped out by it. I'm like, why are you singing like that? It's like that Bruce Springsteen song where he goes, "Hey, little girl." No. All the ones that sing about little girls, they're creepy. Because I just realized that
They
was the
are creepy.
I just realized I was about to sing a David Bowie song or something. No, I don't know, Ice House. But anyway, there's one that he sings and he goes, "Hey, little girl, is your daddy home? Did he go out, leave you all alone?"
Yep.
And that song came out once when I was actually home alone as like an
That was
11-year-old.
a
I'm like,
creepy
"Oh,
song.
yeah, he did. Why are you singing about it?" So it's just funny. I never really thought about words unless the song creeped me out. Like Billy Idol, he gave me such the creeps. I had nightmares about him sitting on a chair at the end of my bed just watching me sleep. So I'd wake up like making sure that Billy Idol wasn't there. Strange dreams. Anyway, random.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm going
well,
to actually listen to that song because the lyrics are creepy, and I don't think I ever knew what the lyrics were because back then you had to buy the little, what is it?
Cassette.
Cassette. Thank you. You had to buy the cassette, and then maybe if they put lyrics on the sheet, you'd get them. Otherwise, you have no way of knowing.
You get them on
And you'd
record.
have to. And
Yeah.
how many times have we said the lyrics wrong?
yeah,
Yes.
Right? You know that wrapped up like a douche, another mother in the
Yeah.
night.
My sister plays the song that dancing between the sheets. She's like dancing in the streets. She has no idea, and she's the whole Tony.
Do you know, I only think I found that out now.
Hears that and doesn't know what she's listening to.
That's
Another one.
funny.
You
I
know
don't
that
tell
Hold
her.
Me Closer, Tony Danza. I was always like, why? Why does he want to hold Tony Danza closer? I mean, it's cool. Like, who's the boss? Not Tony Danza.
Oh,
Yes,
Like I said, we get
exactly
the
awake.
lyrics wrong.
The pencil and the cassette, what that meant.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that.
yeah,
There's so
Kids
many
don't
things.
know what that means nowadays.
yeah.
Like Becca, you're saying you're innocent. It might be because you're neurodivergent. Because I'm finding out a lot of things as an adult that I'm like, oh, really?
So is
I didn't know that.
Is the naive part a little bit of the neurodivergence potentially then?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot about it. I know, like, I'm a jack of all knowledge, master of none, basically, because I know a lot about a little. And that, there's that
Yeah.
Dunning-Kruger effect. I'm very lucky
Yeah.
that that's something that hasn't affected me, because otherwise it'd be like, I know everything, but I know nothing, basically. I know enough to know I know nothing.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I think the naivety is because we're coming at the world from our own viewpoint, which is, I wouldn't say innocent because I'm definitely not innocent, but it's just coming at it from the way I think. Won't hurt you, won't take anything from you, and that's not how the world works. And I think that makes us naive. And so even with song lyrics, I just sing them, and then later on, I just sing them with whatever I feel in mind, and that's generally not malicious or whatever. And then I'll hear someone else's interpretation of, did you know what that meant in that song? I'll be like, no. When did that happen? And it's been like, it's always been that way. And it's like, did they change the lyrics or what? Nope. So
I
think so.
I was more innocent, not that I'm innocent, but that I was more innocent, like in how I thought, because I just was raised that you didn't talk about anything. It's one of the things I love about Reese
like
is she'll talk about anything, and I'm like, I did not know that.
I wasn't raised like that, and I'm wondering if my innocence, naivety is actually a rebellion against the stuff that I was told as a child, which was far too much for a child to know. So I went the opposite. Instead of being, there's certain things I won't talk about with girlfriends or anyone because it's not the way I am. But I can sit there, hear them talk about it, but I won't share any information about me because it's this whole. I'm not going to do what was done to me to anybody, basically. So I try to share it. I give the information, but I try and hold back as much of the trauma as possible. So, which I still understand. There's vicarious trauma even from hearing this the smallest bit. So I try my best to not and just use professionals. But to know me is to understand me, and a lot of my reactions are based on trauma. So one of the things my sister messaged me, and I don't know if she knows yet, I won't get into it, but I really wanted to say that my reactions at that time, I wasn't well. I was well enough to be admitted to hospital. So please take into account that whatever I said, if it hurt you, I'm sorry. I believe you. I'll tell me what it was so I don't say it again. But don't do that. You
Mm-hmm.
know what you said. You know what you said. You know you didn't react appropriately. I'm like, well, no, actually, I don't know what I said to anyone a lot of that time because I was in such a meltdown. But if only people took into account everybody has some sort of version of trauma, and to be kind and to react in a way that's kind, and maybe think, well, what happened to them to make them react that way? But don't do it to the extreme that you let people get away with stuff, because I think that's what I've done in a lot of times. I'm like, they're traumatized, that's why they're doing it. I let my mum get away with a whole bunch of bad behaviors because I'm like, she's traumatized. I understand her. Doesn't mean I have to accept bad behavior. So I just think
Nope.
if we just take into account that majority of time, just be kind.
Yeah.
I agree.
And that's the thing, when we get really, really upset, I try very hard not to say words that will hurt. But I know there's times
Something you
that I
regret
have no control
because
over that. I have no control over that. And then they're like, well, you know what you said. No, actually, I'm sorry, I don't, because I was upset and I was hurting and the words didn't stay. So I have no idea what I said, but please tell me, and I'll try very hard not to say it again. I can't say that I won't, because of the fact that if I have another meltdown, I might say them again, but I will try not to. And I need to know what it is I said so I can fix it.
and a lot of the times I don't say what I want to say. So what comes out when I'm upset is actually how I feel. It may not be facts, because feelings aren't facts. They're
Yeah.
how you feel.
No.
Opinions aren't facts, but feelings are valid. So if I'm feeling a particular way, I always try and say, this is how I'm feeling, rather than this is what you're doing. This is
Yeah.
what you're doing to me. I'm saying, I'm feeling this. It's like using
Yeah.
your therapist words. Instead of saying you
Yep.
do, use I feel.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Or
and if you ever say things to someone like, I would rather be slapped in the face than be told that I'm a horrible person, because a slap in the face, you rub it away and you'd be like, oh, what the hell was that? But being told I'm a horrible person, that cuts. So
Yep.
words to me are more important than actions, but you also have to follow up with actions on your words. I mean, don't keep saying
Yep.
sorry unless you change the behavior, which is something I try
Yep.
to drill into my kids. Sorry means nothing unless you change the behavior. You can say a sorry a million times, that plate's not going to get unbroken. Same with my feelings, Doesn't matter if you
Yep.
say sorry. If you said something that really hurts, it doesn't get taken back. And that's one of the things, like Tony said, I try so hard not to say something I regret or something that's going to
Hmm.
hurt. But when I do, it's actually how I feel, because I'm not going to make up stuff. I'm not going to be like,
No.
it may be made up in my mind because that's what my feelings do. I feel this person is acting this way because they feel this way. Probably not correct, because I'm not in their mind to know what they're feeling. And a lot of the times I'm overthinking it anyway. So
I do that. I do that too. And
it makes me,
it is hard. But saying I feel makes it so that you're not attacking them and they don't feel attacked, and you're taking ownership of your own feelings. And there are feelings. How can they fault us for our feelings? You
yeah. And
know,
that's one of the
it's
things I was
like,
trying to tell the hospital constantly. I know my feelings are irrational. I know my feelings are not on the level of where they should be. But that doesn't mean I'm not feeling them,
yeah.
and it
mm-hmm,
doesn't mean that I'm not at risk because of these feelings. And it's like,
yeah,
they say love doesn't can't kill, or you can't die of a broken heart or whatever, but it can.
Yeah.
um,
yes, it can.
And that is one of the things they cover in a lot of therapy. When you say this, I feel this, because yeah, exactly like what you're saying, you cannot.
Otherwise, it's coming at an attack. And if someone
Yeah.
says you did
Yeah.
this to me, even myself, especially with the what is it, the the pathological avoidance thing, I'd be like, no, I didn't.
Mm.
But then, like, get me back in 15 minutes or so, and I'll be sitting there going, oh, yeah, no, I actually did, but if they had to come at me differently, it would have been a completely different outcome.
Hmm.
But
I'm trying
that's
to
not their fault.
yeah, I'm trying to phrase things differently, in less that people that like for example, my mom, less that my mom is a horrible person, and more that the actions that my mom did was horrible.
Mm.
Not that she's horrible, that the actions were horrible, and try to
Yeah.
change a little bit of, doesn't change that what was done was wrong, or things that she said and how she behaved was wrong. But
No.
it makes it a little less, it makes me a little less angry. And which I'm glad of for me, nothing to do with her, but I don't like feeling that way. We had a
Nope.
really good conversation in therapy about what I'm going to say to my mom and how I'm going to address it. So, yeah, I'm probably going to be bringing that to a head soon too.
My therapist said exactly the same thing yesterday, but I've been saying it the same thing for years, is my mum is a great person, terrible mother. But that doesn't take away from her being a great person. And how can she be a great mother when she didn't have the best? She was 16. What's she going to do? You know? And so I've had to come to terms with that within myself, even though I still have the reactions of anger towards her, because I'm like, you're 60 now, get it together, you know, but she might not, and that's her, and I have to accept that. But I also don't have to tolerate it if I don't like her behavior. So I just have to accept
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. We can accept anything, but we don't have to tolerate it.
Yeah.
You know, we can, like with Jonathan, when he starts raising his voice at me, I can accept that he's raising his voice at me, but I'm not going to tolerate it. So I'm going to turn around, I'm going to walk away. And if it makes him angry, that's his problem, not mine.
It's boundaries.
It's
you have
boundaries.
the right to select your own boundaries. And if someone doesn't, that's part of what I'm going to just address when I talk to my mom. If this is my boundary, if you choose to meet that boundary, so not preaching at me anymore, if she chooses to not meet that boundary, I'm going to continue to share far more of my real life than what she knows about, because she knows nothing. The realization, I've been lying to my mother for years because she can't handle it.
Yeah.
Handle what, and it's not even stuff that's that bad, but because they're so strict.
Yeah.
So fundamental, really. They fall under the kind of the fundamentalist line of things.
Yep.
Well, to go back to what you were saying earlier a while back ago was you were talking about wanting to fit in. That's actually a primary thing that most people go through, and it makes sense because it goes back to tribe. And I guarantee that all your ancestors, not all, well, all your ancestors in your bloodline lived long enough to reproduce, and part of that relied upon them having the tribe for safety. So, yeah, if you got ostracized, there went a lot of your safety, a lot of your resource.
Yep. And then finding your new tribe can be hard.
Yep.
But you can do it. You can find a tribe. Look, we found one right here where we find support and love and understanding and help and all the things that we need to have a good life. I actually have a question. Is it possible to have parents that loved you too much to where you were suffocated?
Yeah. I think any extreme is possible.
Would seem to be, but
I was going to say, is that to some degree, wouldn't that kind of fall under like the helicopter parents who, I mean, for the university I work for, we've got kids that their parents are going with them to interviews.
I was a helicopter
parent.
Know
how to do an interview for themselves.
Yeah, I was that helicopter parent, and I regret it so bad. I thought it was gentle parenting. No, I was helicoptering. I was like, no, that's too dangerous. No, I'll help you with that. No, I don't want you to be hurt. I don't want to see you hurt. I don't want you to be upset. I was that parent. Up until the point I realized, oh my God, what am I doing? And you can't take it back after that. They won't accept boundaries or rules when you haven't had them before.
Yeah.
And also, I was by myself, so I did the best I could. And they also grew up with everything that I wish I could have had. Not everything, I didn't have everything, but they got what they needed and basically what they wanted. But I didn't love them too much. I don't think that's a possible thing. I don't think you can ever love your kids too much unless it becomes like dangerous. You know what I mean? Like, I think there are dangerous versions of love, but I don't. If you put your child at risk in any way, I don't know if that's love. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to tell.
Yeah,
it's hard to tell. But I just don't. I wish I could go back and change it, but I can't. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And I helicoptered them so much that pushed them away.
I don't think my parents helicoptered me because, I mean, well, maybe. Because my brother and I were allowed to go out and go snow machining and ride our three-wheelers or motorcycles or whatever. But my dad always told my brother to make sure I was safe, to watch out over me, to, make sure that I didn't get hurt. You know,
I think that's normal.
I think that's normal. But also, I mean,
Because I said the exact same thing to oh,
I was gonna say, we were
I said
allowed
the
back
same thing to my kid.
then to run around and do stuff, and you'd go
yeah,
outside and you wouldn't check in with anybody. I
yeah,
mean, we were allowed to do that. It was a completely different time,
it
and
was.
it's different now too, because we talk about like helicopter parenting or kind of suffocating kids, but things are not safe. If you live in the city, it's not safe for your kids to run around without you knowing.
No.
But also, I have to say, we at the time when I was pregnant with my child, or even when he was brand new, there was a boy in Australia called Daniel Morecambe who was taken, and he went missing. He was missing most of my children, missing, murdered most of my children's young life up until like 15 years or something until they found his remains and the person got convicted from it. So when my kids were growing up, all I heard about was Daniel Morecambe, and keep your kids safe, because even waiting for a bus to go get
Mhm.
Christmas presents for your parents, you can get taken and something bad can
Mhm.
happen to you. So what I did with my daughter, which is because one time we were at a train station and I was sitting and we had to wait for 2 hours to go get our train home. So I was over here on this side watching her. She was running back and forth from those billboards that used to change, like roll
Mhm.
over. She was like trying to catch it and stop it from rolling over all on the other side of the thing. And some old man came up to her and was like, "Hey, little girl, where's your mummy? Do you want me to take you to your mummy?" I'm like, "Mummy's over here." I'm right here. I can see you. And then he sort of wandered off. Coming from a
Well,
place of trauma,
Yeah.
my reaction was he was trying to steal my kid. So
Yeah.
I said to her, "Don't you ever talk to strangers. Don't you ever do that. They'll steal you." And then to the point where she was so terrified of being stolen because I'd ingrained that into her. And
Yeah.
our society here in Australia had ingrained that into you will get stolen.
Yeah.
And she was so scared all the time. And I tried to turn it around when she was a bit older and say, "No one's going to steal you. They'll just give you back. They'll pay me to take you back." And it didn't work though. She'd already been inherent. It's been something that's
Yeah.
inherent in her that she can't. She's not safe. I put that in her. She's not safe. And I wonder if it hit me so badly because I wasn't safe. And I always wanted her
Could
to
very well
know.
be.
Yeah, but I was never told about
I was
dangerous
gonna say, I
people.
don't think it was just you though, because you see it everywhere on the news.
Yeah.
She would have heard it at school. She would have all of these. It wouldn't have been just you. It would have been all over. I mean, it's all over the news or schools, or I mean, the way they handle things now is different than they did back when we were growing up. So I don't even think it's entirely you.
Well,
That
I just wonder
you would
if
have
it,
heard
if
it everywhere.
yeah, and I've wondered. Well, there was all of Australia was traumatized for a long time,
Mhm.
wanting this little boy to come home, and he never did. And it's just something that's sort of stuck because his parents fought, and they want all the other kids out there to be safe too. Be
Yep.
safe, stranger danger, beware. We wear red for
Yep.
Daniel Day here, and it's just. But I wonder if my feeling unsafe so much when I was younger makes me react to people and think that everyone's a danger or no one's
Maybe.
a danger. I can't. Everyone's been so dangerous. I don't recognize danger anymore.
Maybe. But
Could be very well.
I have to write that down and talk to my therapist.
I
yeah.
would say
Hey,
yes,
Ben,
do
can you
it.
pull up Awaken's comment about telling my kids there's nothing you can do?
Tampa, I could, or yeah, Tampa, I can see why that would change you.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
That's
Yeah, it's terrible.
absolutely horrible.
That's absolutely scary.
A weekend. I hope you feel better soon.
Mm.
My headache's getting worse too, so I need to go soon too.
Yeah, I need to. Let's see here.
Yeah.
Telling my kids that there's nothing you can do we can't fix. Love you so much that there's nothing. Yeah, I gave them a false sense of safety that I was not capable of providing.
And
Yes.
I think that's what I grew up with, where my dad was always, you can always come to me. We can always fix it. I love you so much. Nothing can tear us apart.
Hmm.
And then I went through all the stuff I went through. And Rebecca, you and I have talked about this, what I went through and everything. And the fact that basically I was abandoned when I chose not to follow what they believed. So it's, yeah, it's that thinking you're going to be safe all the time. And then all of a sudden you're not,
Hmm.
because they let go and just leave you feeling abandoned.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and
So,
I was gonna say I have the same thing to a slightly different level, where I know that I technically they haven't abandoned me at this point, but that love is conditional. And that
Hmm.
if I was completely honest with the choices I've made in my life and what I believe in or don't believe in, they would be gone in a heartbeat.
Actually, I was talking about this with my best friend and my therapist and everything yesterday. Is that, when they say blood is thicker than water, it's actually the blood of the covenant is thicker than water, or something like that. It means that the bonds that you choose are stronger than the bonds that you're born with. Oh, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. I think it is.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what it means. It means that those who you choose to have in your life, the covenants, like, can be stuff in war. It's actually, it means more. And I think that's something that's really important. Like, just because they're family doesn't mean you're going to get unconditional love. A lot of times I think love is conditional because they expect more of you than what
Yeah.
you can do, because I think that's a lot of what comes from parenting, and you expect more of your children. I can't say I haven't done the same thing. Like I said recently, I'm disappointed that my child has chosen the way that she's going. But it's also because I expected more. Not I expect more because I know she can do more. I know her potential is higher. But it's not my place to put my level of potential on her. My what I think she can do. She has to do whatever she wants to do rather than what I want her to do. And I think it's been a hard thing to come up with because I've been such a helicopter parent that letting go of my little
It's hard.
whirling apron strings is very hard.
Yeah. How old is your daughter?
She's 22. She'll be 22 in August.
So her brain isn't developed yet. She doesn't know. I was going to say she doesn't. Speaking
it's the
for
same with
myself,
mine.
I didn't know. And the choices I made then, I look back at some of them and go, "Oh my god, I was so stupid."
I
And
knew
then
everything when I was 22. What are you talking about?
I did too. I thought, but then
Yeah,
you
same.
get older and you realize that you haven't a
I know
clue.
nothing, Jon Snow.
Yeah. But I'm going to
Yeah.
go just because the headache's getting much worse, and I do need to get some food.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
it's
Take care of yourself.
a matter of fact, we're coming up on
Nearly
almost 2 hours
2 hours.
here. So, uh, any closing words anybody has to say? Like, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. And Cosmic, Tony, and Becca, of course, and of course everybody in the chat. Uh, this is the format that this usually goes in. It was one that originally set up by Carol when she created Needing a Meeting. We typically would have a topic and banter around, and then somewhere around the way, kind of go
Off
off
it
the
goes.
rails. But
It's all the
uh,
neurodivergencies. Woo.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's oh my. Okay. Anywho, any closing words anybody wishes to say?
Go Orcas.
Just
Keep getting them yachts.
Go who?
The orcas. Haven't you heard about the orcas attacking yachts? It's the whole thing.
I know, but
Hey, go orcas!
Yes.
But they're not attacking the people. They just break the yacht. They break the bit that
The
hangs down.
yachts
So
are in their territory and maybe scaring their babies. So then
there's
go
that.
the orcas.
There's that, and also orcas are very, very intelligent. And I
Yep.
just think they're like, look at these rich people with their yachts making all this noise. Nah, can't make no noise no more.
I like that. I like that. Everybody just, I hope they have a good day, a good evening till we meet again. And just for all those that are dealing with issues that are overwhelming to them, just know we're here and we love you and we'll always be here for you.
Yes, and Misha, I understand exactly what you're saying there. So, anyway, I'm going to head off and go make some coffee because apparently I need a lot of coffee now, otherwise I get headaches. Love
And
yous.
Bye all. Love you too.
And I'm going to go too, and I'm going to need to create that dopa menu because if I don't create it and post that list, I think I will, in the moments, I'm going to forget what my options are.
Yeah, and
So,
I think that's the big thing is just to fall into the same behavior over and over again, where pretty soon you'll be doing the same thing and you don't get any return. And yeah, it's a very interesting mindset to have to go back to maintaining dopamine levels.
and I think I've been chasing dopamine levels
Yeah,
since I can remember.
yeah.
There's always been something. Maybe it was reading a book and not disassociating, but distracting myself.
Yeah.
That I've been doing some of this stuff since I was a little kid.
Mhm.
So yeah, but I send love to everyone and remind everyone that you are loved, you are worthy. We are glad you're here. Thank you. And I send everyone love and support and hugs if you want them. Great to see you, Ben.
Great to see you.
Bye.
Oh my, that was uh, that was quite a meeting. I'd like to thank again. I would like to thank everybody for showing up. As always, it's interesting the amount of what different people will bring to the table as far as viewpoints, and it's always interesting how we can learn from each other. Um, Oftentimes, even when we don't have anything in common, there's always something we can learn from each other. And I'd like to thank you again, all, for showing up. I'm trying to remember how Carol. Oh, that's right. Carol would always end her meetings with the same type of ending, and it would always be peace, y'all. You guys take care.